Okay, I'm going to try to explain a research paper from a previous class, point out what's good about it, uh, point out a few mistakes, and hopefully students will be able to use this as an example of what looks pretty good. Uh, First, the title should be underlined, capital letters, that's fine, underlined, that's all. This paper got an A so far as I can remember. The introductory paragraph is pretty good. I think there's these opening sentences are kind of useless. Many people take public transportation to get to their destination. Okay, we already know that. It's kind of like stating the obvious. Um, I don't like these opening sentences because they're kind of useless. Here's a definition of public transportation, the second sentence. Public transportation is a system of vehicles such as buses and trains. Okay, we don't need a definition of public transportation because we really know what it is. Define autism or define postpartum depression if needed, because the definition of terms is really quite good. That would be better here, but a definition of public transportation is not really needed. Now, this is the thesis sentence here, though. I believe that Chicago's public transportation is horrible, period. That's wonderful. Short and sweet, that works beautifully. That's her opinion. The sentence after this is the preview sentence. Chicago's public transportation is horrible because it costs a lot of money, number one, gets overcrowded, number two, and smells awful, number three. Perfect. Now, the first body paragraph below is about money. Chicago's public transportation costs a lot of money, and that's the first item in the preview sentence. Beautiful. Here's one of the first sources. According to Wisniewski, cash fare for buses is $2.25 per ride for adults and blah, 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 inside quotation marks. That's good. According to Wisniewski is the author's last name. It's a direct quote from Wisniewski. So I'm going to look on the works cited page at the end to find Wisniewski for the full information. Here's the works cited page. This should also be underlined, works cited page, no colon. This should be centered. This is a little bit off. Wisniewski, here, second from the bottom. Wisniewski, comma, Mary is the first name, period. Here's the title of her article, CTA Writer Alert, No Fare Increases, 17. In quotations because that's a small title inside a larger title. It's on the chicagotribune.com website by the Chicago Tribune. This is the title of the source. This is the title of the article in the source. You always italicize the title of the larger container, like the Chicago Tribune, and this is the title of the article inside the newspaper. Therefore, we have two titles. The small title of the article goes into quotation marks. The larger title is always italicized. Now we have two dates here. The first date, 17 November 2016. That's the date it was put up by the Chicago Tribune. Then we see the word web, period. This is a web source, not a print source. I don't think I see any print sources. All of these are web sources. Then we have a second date, 26 March, period, 2017. The second date is the date the website was viewed. The first date is the date the website was put up, published. Also, these dates have to be typed up according to the MLA style guidelines, which means it goes like this, 17 November 2016, not November 17th, 2016. These dates have to be typed up this way, the day first, the month second, the date of the year last. Why? That's how the MLA guidelines does it. That means all students have to do it this way too. So this works cited page looks pretty good. All the sources of the authors of articles are alphabetized, C, K, K, or M, S, V, W, W. They have to be in alphabetical order. The author's last name is first, comma, first name, period. then the title of the article, the title of the source, the date it was looked at, where it was on the website or print if it's a book or a newspaper, magazine, and then the date it was looked at. These look pretty good. It looks pretty thorough. You've got some nice italics here. These are all italicized. That's properly done. So this looks pretty good. They're double spaced to the extent that there's white space between each entry. However, I think everything should be double spaced here. So this first line of text should have some white space between it and the second line of text. That would be double spaced fully. But this looks pretty good. So we'll go back to page 1 and continue reading this quickly. I'm just mainly looking for sources. I'll move to the second page, page number 2 here. Here's another source or citation, a quote. People can't afford that type of money every day if they've got to go somewhere. Marin, period. That's done up correctly. This is called an in-text citation. The author of this statement is Marin. That's the author's last name. This is how you type it up properly. Inside quotation marks, and then in parentheses at the end of it is the author's last name, sometimes a page number, but these are websites, so they don't usually have page numbers, and then period. So this looks good. It's done correctly. I'm going to look for Marin on the works cited page and see if I can find the full source of the information. These in-text citations are just abbreviated sources. They're pointers to the website, the works cited page that gives the full information. Marin. Number 3, Carol Marin is the full source. Here's the title of the article, How CTA's One-Day Fair Liked at NBC Chicago, NBC Universal Media. Here's the date it was looked at. This is the date it was published, put online. It's a web source, and this is the date it was looked at. Very good. Okay, back to page 2. The price of taking public transportation has gone up, and many of us can't afford it. That's certainly true. According to Marin, the new fare structure, which went into effect last week, is a 44% increase. That's done well too. This is called a signal phrase. Whenever you use the author's last name in the sentence itself, that's called a signal phrase. That means you don't have to put Marin at the end of this sentence as above. Why? The author's last name, Marin, is already contained in the sentence itself. Therefore, it doesn't need to be stated twice. So Marin, we already know that source is properly written up on the works cited page. Looks good. Very, very good. This second body paragraph is about how the CTA is overcrowded. Very good. I like the way that she begins her paragraphs with a topic sentence. A topic sentence is what the paragraph is about. Chicago's public transportation gets overcrowded. That's an immediate indication that this whole paragraph is about how it's overcrowded. On page 1, this whole paragraph is about how it costs a lot of money. So she beautifully puts the topic sentence first in her body paragraphs, and if you want to do that, go for it. It works beautifully. I highly recommend it. Overcrowded. Okay, other times I'm going over this briefly. Oh, here, I don't like this, if I can say this, in the middle of the paragraph. In one of the articles I read, it states that blah, blah, blah. Okay, don't do that. Instead, say the article. And the author is Velez. In one of the articles I read, it states that in 2012, CTA readership was 2.4% higher than blah, blah, blah. Velez. This is a correct in-text citation. That's the author's last name. Inside parentheses with a period after. That's done correctly. So I'm going to look for Velez on the works cited page and see if I can find the full information there.